think it's abundantly clear which country controls the other.
We
We're
completely
about to merge
forgot
our
about
military.
I was going to bring it up.
Merge.
Section 2. I was going to bring it up. We completely forgot about that. I'm sure you've covered the hell out of it, you and Cenk on the show, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's wild.
It is wild. And it's crazy. And I think it's very likely going to happen. And once that happens, I mean, the way that I currently see our government is it is full to the brim with Israeli infiltrators. And that's the reason why these terrible decisions get made, even though it hurts the American people and our country and our standing in the global community. I would like to purge those individuals from our government, you know, the so-called deep state, unelected officials who are secretly working at the behest of a foreign country as opposed to what's in the best interest of our country. Merging our military and our intelligence with the Israelis will make it nearly impossible to get rid of these people. And so I don't know what we do. I think if we keep going in that direction, eventually there's going to be a violent revolution in America. And I'm not kidding about that, because this is not just about the left disliking our alliance with Israel. Now you see right-wingers waking up. And right-wingers are not like left-wingers. Right-wingers want to fight. So I would just ask our government to maybe proceed with caution, but they won't.
Or maybe they will. They'll have it's a balance. It's which one is politically more beneficial, pleasing the pro-Israeli donors and lobbyists, or being critical of Israel and pleasing the voters. And obviously it was there, that's the pro-lobby, and it's kind of moving in that direction. As soon as that crosses, this one crosses a chasm, then this is where we'll see the shift. And we may be seeing that right now. So I think that's a more likely path.
I hope so. I really hope so.
But when you see Senator Cotton, I'm sure you've seen that as well. He's trying to merge Mossad and the CIA as well and make it irrevocable, make it permanent. I see that. I'm like, what's next? You guys learn the Israeli national anthem in primary school. I'm like, there's nothing more left beyond that. That's just crazy when I read it.
It is crazy. I think Senator Cotton is a traitor to our country. I don't think he has there is no right for this guy to be a part of the Senate, a part of our government. I hope he gets elected out. He's a traitor to our country. And so I question, do the Israelis have something on him, or is he just addicted to that cash? I don't know, but he disgusts me beyond words. He's selling out our country right now.
That cash works, though. I was surprised how well it worked against Thomas Massie.
They are easy to buy.
No, but in terms of ads during primaries, the fact that Thomas Massie lost to that weird guy that no one knew about, Edward, that was a bizarre one.
Yeah.
What are
you talking about? He's super charismatic. I mean, the American people love that guy.
It was such a bizarre thing to watch. Are we seeing the pro? Didn't there one or two pro-Trump or Trump-supported candidates lose? And would you make much of that? Is that showing you the tide shift, or not really?
You know, it's really hard to say. What ended up happening with Massie shook me, because I guess I had deluded myself into thinking there's enough criticism at this point on the right toward the U.S. alliance with Israel that the voters in Kentucky are going to see exactly what's going on here, and they're going to reelect Massie, obviously. Yeah. But unfortunately, that didn't happen. But I do think the Israel lobby was kind of lucky, because they were focusing on a primary election. And to be honest with you, the only people, and to my fellow Americans, please listen to this because it's important. Primary elections are way more important than the actual general election. The primary election is where you get to decide whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, which Democratic candidate or which Republican candidate is going to best represent you. And then they'll make it to the general, and then you get to vote on that person or vote for that person. Most Americans, though, are not really paying attention to the primary races. And what ended up happening is the pro-Israel side was very much galvanized. And the pro-Trump side, since Trump was attacking Massie so aggressively, they were very much galvanized to cast their ballots during that primary. So in that case, I do think that the Israel lobby was a little lucky. If it was a general race, I think it'd be a little different, but who knows? I wish that we can get more Americans like very engaged, extremely engaged in primary races. But even when it comes to general races, Mario, if you look at the voter turnout, the largest voting bloc in this country are non-voters, people who have totally checked out. They don't believe in our system. They don't trust our institutions. And quite frankly, I don't blame them. But right now, with this atomized society that I believe our media has done a great job in dividing. So we're always fighting each other, and we're always atomized. We're always fighting each other. We're never looking to the power structures that are screwing us, right? That has led to a system of government and institutions that consistently fail us. And rather than fighting back as voters, as the American people, I think a lot of people have checked out. That's my read of it. But we need to find a way to change that culture, because we do need to get more involved. And, I can only do so much as one single person. But what I'm trying to do through the work I put out is just model my behavior after what I'm hoping American voters will behave like. And what I mean by that is, don't demonize ordinary citizens, even if they vote differently from you. Don't assume that they're bad, evil people. Stop fighting each other, okay? We need to save the country, and we're not going to be able to do it by, being ordinary voters who look at the other side and demonize them constantly with this assumption that they're the problem. No, our systems, our institutions, the legalized bribery that's baked into our political system, all of that is the problem. And the only way to change it is if we're willing to work together on the big issues that matter.
Yeah, I like the way you've described it. That's how I see the issue. It's like the system that is the United States is such an incredible system that decentralizes power, but it's not a perfect system. And different groups, organizations, people, and countries have taken advantage of these loopholes and have hijacked the system. I think that's the best term to use. The system has been hijacked. I want to ask you a completely different question. Just crossed my mind while you were speaking, because you've been doing this for so long. Mm-hmm. Have you ever tried to? I try to do this a lot, and I do this all the time. But it's a bit tough when it comes to Israel. Putting myself in their shoes and try to see things through their lens. I'm able to do it when it comes to Lebanon. I'm like, look, Hezbollah acts to some extent at the behest of Iran. Iran uses Hezbollah as a deterrent against Israel, rightly or wrongly. So Israel sees Hezbollah as a threat. I think the solution is diplomacy, not not a military solution. But at least I see it through their lens. Palestine, I'm not able to whatsoever. I've spoken to so many people, including people that believe Israel, in the greater Israel, expanding their borders. I've spoken to those people to understand their position. I'm really struggling to see through their lens.
That's good. It's good that you're struggling, because they're terrorists. So it's good that you can't empathize with terrorists.
I'll ask you the question. I think people are really would want to hear from you rather than me. So, but the average Israeli, it is a democratic country. There's a lot of great people there. They're just the average Israeli. Why do you think they don't see what you and others see?
Well, I think Tucker Carlson actually put this or answers this question the best. The United States has enabled everything that Israel has wanted to do for decades. When you aid and abet a country that engages in genocidal behavior, that seeks to wipe out populations of Arabs in order to expand their borders and take their land, well, what does that message to the Israelis? It messages to them for decades that they're not in the wrong, that everything they're doing is totally fine. And that conditioning is really, really hard to undo. So yeah, of course, they think that they're entitled to expanding their borders. They think they're entitled to literally slaughtering innocent civilians, including children, because they have convinced themselves that the infant that the IDF, shot in the head, well, that infant was going to grow up to be a terrorist. So it's better to wipe them out. I mean, they will say these things out loud. And then when I call them what they are, which is terrorists, they have the audacity to call me an anti-Semite. The Jewish population doesn't believe that it's okay to slaughter children, but Zionists do, including Christian Zionists like Mike Huckabee. So,
Oh, Mike, did you see that quote from Mike Huckabee? He said in an event a few days ago, the U.S. wouldn't exist without Israel. I actually took a screenshot of that quote. I was in the middle of an interview. I sent it to my team. I'm like, is this guy retarded? I said it to my team, my writing team. So my team does, it's in a group. So what my team does is they take the clip. They thought I wanted that to be tweeted. They tweet Mike Huckabee's clip and they write, is this guy retarded? And it went viral. I'm like, great. Mike is never coming on my show again. That was 2 days ago. But
he's doing you a favor.
But I've had him on the show before. I just didn't confront him enough. That was a while ago. But just explain what the hell that means.
So people have been trying to twist his words to mean something entirely different. But he said what he said. I mean, my father is older than Israel. Okay. My father is in his 80s. I just, how exactly did Israel create the formation of the United States? Obviously, the United States is older than Israel. And here's the other thing, Mario, and I don't think anyone can refute this. If the United States pulled all support from Israel, and what I mean by that isn't just we stop, arming them, funding half their military. I'm not just talking about that. What if the United States decides we're no longer going to provide that bribe to Egypt so Egypt plays nice with Israel? If we pull out entirely, what happens to Israel? Like, really ask yourself that. Because that country has made a lot of enemies, and they're working hard to turn us into enemies, which I welcome it. I just know, I'm sorry, Israel doesn't exist without the United States, and they know that. Huckabee knows that. He knows that.
Why? So when I spoke to Huckabee, he seemed like a very nice person, and I've heard that about him as well. Others have said, even Tucker said that about him. He just seemed like a genuine person. What?
Okay, pause.
Seemed. I said seemed.
No,
so
I love that thing that Tucker does because it's hilarious, and I don't know if he does it to troll or if he's like genuine when he like trashes someone, rightfully so, and then immediately follows it. Really nice person, really nice. I mean,
he does that to Ted Cruz as well. Yeah,
very nice.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll take away when Tucker said it because he did trash him in that same sentence. But what do you think Mike is doing? Why does he say things like this when he's meant to be a U.S. ambassador? And everyone says the joke has become common, Israeli ambassador to Israel. But it's a pretty accurate joke. Why? Why do you think he does that?
With Mike Huckabee, I actually don't think it has anything to do with bribery or with blackmail. I think Mike Huckabee represents the faction of Israel supporters who are just religious lunatics. And, the whole thing about the second coming of Christ and, how you need to
he believes that. Honestly, do you really think he believes those things?
I do.
But that's isn't that a bit weird? I was born Christian, so I'm allowed to say these things. But isn't it weird when you? Okay, so I don't practice it, but isn't it weird when you kind of bring Christianity into things like this that obviously shouldn't have nothing to do with religion?
I mean, yes, I totally agree with you. I don't think that your religious belief should play any role in foreign policy decisions or even domestic policy decisions, certainly. And that's why I really value our Constitution, which is supposed to have a separation of church and state. But, I don't think Huckabee cares. I do believe that he is a devout believer of this interpretation, evangelical interpretation of Christianity, which is pretty sick when you think about it, right? For everything we hear about how critics of Israel are so-called anti-Semites couldn't be further from the truth. I'm criticizing the conduct of a foreign country. The fact of the matter is what the evangelical Christians like Huckabee believe is that, okay, the Israelis need to have control of Israel. And, when the second coming of Christ occurs, if they haven't turned over to accepting Christ, they're all going to burn in hell. That sounds pretty terrible, doesn't it? Like, if that's your genuine belief, that's pretty terrible. And I think that Zionists understand that evangelical Christians believe this, and they think, well, we don't believe it, so let's just use that to our advantage. And they do. They effectively use that belief system to their own advantage. Mike Huckabee, by the way, should be in prison, considering the fact that he had a traitor to the United States step foot on U.S. soil, which, of course, the U.S. embassy in Israel, that's considered U.S. soil. And he had Jonathan Pollard. He met with Jonathan Pollard secretly. The guy who threatened to use unconventional weapons against the United States. I think Huckabee should be in prison.
I want to go back to the religious thing. Can you explain it to me again? Sorry for pressing you on this. So what is it? So they believe Israel belongs to Jews, and when the Christ comes back, who burns in hell? Sorry to ask you again.
Anyone who doesn't accept Jesus Christ as their Lord and Savior.
Cool. And also believes Jews should be in the land of Israel.
Yes. That they will foster the second coming. And by the
They
way,
will foster it. Okay.
I don't believe any of this stuff at all.
No, okay.
And,
I don't blame you
by
for
the
not
way,
believing it.
And nor would I revel in the notion that an entire population of people would be killed because they refuse to believe a certain religious doctrine. It's just, I hate all of it. It's disgusting. But I bring it all up because I do think that Mike Huckabee represents a certain belief system that forces him, not even forces him, that encourages him to support the modern state of Israel. I don't think, and I could be wrong, I'm just speculating, I don't think that he's been bribed or blackmailed into supporting Israel the way he does.
Yeah, I agree. He doesn't seem like that type of person.
Yeah.
But the Pollard thing is just, it also, has anything happened about it? It's another one of those bizarre things. The ambassador to the United States of America meeting a traitor that was in prison of the United States to America. That's also a bit cuckoo. Has any politician talked about it? Has Trump made comments about it whatsoever?
No. In fact, when the White House was asked whether they were aware that Huckabee would meet with Pollard, all they said was no, but they don't have a problem with it. And so imagine being an American hearing that. How do you not feel a deep level of rage when that whole incident plays out the way that it did? And so I think the hardest thing for a lot of Americans, myself included, by the way, was over the last 3 years, waking up to the fact that our politicians not only don't give a damn about us, they don't care about this country at all, at all. And when you realize that your government, these institutions are being led by people who don't value this country, I mean, it enrages you. And I think that's what led to people on the right waking up to what the reality is. And I do think that there's all this ire directed at the likes of Tucker Carlson because he's such an effective communicator. And I think he woke a lot of people on the right up to just how parasitic our relationship with Israel really is, how it's basically taken a complete hold on our government, on our elected officials, to the point where they will literally make decisions that don't benefit us, that play to the detriment of the American people. And people are enraged about that. And so I'm very curious to see what happens with Trump moving forward. You know, Trump's momentum oftentimes is very dependent on admiration, validation. And right now he's getting heat from all sides. You know, people like me who never wanted to enter this war, I'm furious that he did. But at the same time, do I keep taking jabs at the guy who's trying to push for an end to this war? I think it would actually work out to be a little more complimentary that he's pushing in this direction, because you want to encourage him to keep going in this direction. It doesn't mean that I've forgiven him for all the terrible decisions he's made, but in the current environment, when there's only hate directed toward him, I mean, the Israel firsters, of course, are going to do everything in their power to try to get Trump to renege. But he's less likely to renege, if you ask me, if he's getting support from people who want an end to this war. I don't know how to balance that, though, because I don't want to give credit to a man. Like, you can't keep breaking things and then giving yourself a pat on the back when you like glue it together. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and Trump does that a lot.
He does. You answered my next question was, do you think that people like yourself and Tucker could slowly change your stance towards Trump, and could we see improved relations between Trump and that base, people like Massey, Tucker, and others? Could we see a process where that happens? Because there has to be a balance to all the pro-Israeli crowd turning on Trump. Something has to balance for that, as you've just hinted.
Yes. I mean, there are definitely things Trump could do that no other administration would even dare consider. I doubt Trump would do it. I mean, if Trump ends up being the president that officially and formally decouples the United States from Israel entirely, Oh my gosh. I mean, I would definitely sing his praises on that because I do think that's a really important thing to accomplish. I don't see our alliance with Israel as beneficial to the United States in any way, shape, or form. But that is such an extreme thing to do in our current political context that I doubt he's going to try to do that. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But look,
Or
I'm
even if
not
he
one of these
tries.
people. Let me just say, I'm not one of these people who I'm willing to be fair and judge issue by issue. So if someone is going to ask me about Trump's decisions during the entirety of this war against Iran, I'm going to be very negative. But I'm also going to be positive if Trump does things right moving forward, right? So I'll give him credit when credit is due. I don't really care. Like, I do have a dog in this fight. The dog in the fight is my country. So if you're doing something that benefits the United States, that's good for the United States, I'm going to give you credit.
How likely do you think that? For two things. How likely do you think that he's actually trying to change the American relationship with Israel beyond just rhetoric to support the MOU? That's question number one. And question number two, how likely do you think it is to succeed?
The MOU?
No. If he's trying to, put America first above Israel first, how likely do you think that is to succeed?
That's going to be very hard to do because I think one other thing that many Americans have woken up to is the reality that the president isn't really as powerful as we'd like to think, right? Which, by the way, there's a positive side to that because you want a system of checks and balances, but that's not what we have. That's the problem. Congress has effectively ceded everything to the executive branch already. It's hilarious that right now a few Republican senators are like, oh, well, we didn't have to approve the illegal war against Iran, but now we have to approve the MOU. We have to vote on it. It's hilarious to me. But okay, putting that aside, the real problem is the deep state. Those are the decision makers. Those are the people who are plotting behind the scenes to get what they want. And so when conservatives were railing against the deep state, that's what they were referring to. And, I have friends who are investigative reporters, and I was speaking to one of them just this week, and he was talking about just how much agency, what is it called? I'm forgetting, sorry, but how much agency certain players in our federal government have and are able to make decisions and kind of manipulate outcomes without the president even being aware. You get what I'm saying?
Yes. The unelected bureaucrats. I was talking to someone. I was talking to Joe Kent about it yesterday, and Marjorie. It's just wild how there's people that are like. He said something. Joe Kent said something. I wrote it down yesterday. He had a very interesting quote. But Alex just explain it instead? It's I can't remember it either. But it's the people that the president and the elected officials, the head of the FBI, the head of the CIA, the head of whatever other agency, they have a lot less agency than what the average person, including myself, would expect them to have. And there's a lot of, when it's such a large company, there's all these different departments and heads of departments, and they work together and they've got their own, they take decisions without the leadership knowing, they hide information from them. That's something I'm learning more and more of, and it's pretty freaking terrifying. And it applies to the president as well.
Yes. I just remembered, what this journalist was telling me about. Basically, CENTCOM. That CENTCOM acts with a level of autonomy that he found shocking. So
CENTCOM. Holy shit! I didn't expect that.
This is a very credible journalist who focuses on these types of issues, and so I trust him. Let's see if he puts out a report on it.
But I'd love to have him on to talk about this. That's CENTCOM. That is wild. Yeah. Imagine we find out strikes on the strike on some infrastructure or the killing of some leaders in Iran were done by some commander that the US president did not approve. Imagine. Or the authorization. Also, one last example, I just remembered, there was, I can't remember who was on my show and tell me, Mario, when the Israelis said they got authorization from the US for something, it does not mean they got authorization from Trump. They could have.
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly right. It's crazy. And I think, going back to your earlier question about, Trump being fearful on attempts on his life, I think now that he's in the belly of the beast, I think he sees how things really work and how, I don't want to say how little power the president has. The president still has quite a bit of power. The question is, are the people around him being forthcoming? Is he given access to all of the appropriate, necessary, important information? I think he's realizing that there are certain players who act with autonomy and get to make decisions without him even knowing about it or being able to do anything about it. And so the bureaucracy is very large.
It is insane.
Yeah.
Such a large system and country.
And I wasn't necessarily against Trump's initial efforts to get rid of some federal workers. It's just that, he focused on federal workers that are actually pretty critical in helping things run smoothly in this country. When you focus on getting people in the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau fired, okay, obviously the priority isn't where I thought it was going to be. But I do think we have far too many unelected federal workers who make decisions about war and peace who need to go. They're not helpful.
And all the bureaucrats need to do is just survive 4 years. And that's it.
Yeah,
keep distracting the president for 4 years. And then do it all over again. Anna, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for jumping on. Enjoyed the conversation as always.